मेरा रंग दे, मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे, मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे, मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, रंग दे, रंग दे, रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे, मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे, मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे, मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, रंग दे, रंग दे, रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे, मेरा रंग दे.
So, thank you so much, everybody, for being here and taking out your precious time, first of all. And Virendra ji, thank you so much. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. You took out your precious time and came here to answer our questions. So, let's start the event today. You all know why we're here today. Virendra ji, before I ask you anything about Bhagat Singh, and before I ask you anything about his personal life, सबसे पहला सवाल, the first question that I would like to ask you is, what was the environment during the early 1900s in Lahore? And therefore, what was the environment in your family, in the family of Bhagat Singh, that made him what he was? Was it always very, a very Krantikari sort of family of Krantikari, or family of revolutionaries? Was it always like that?
Yes. Our family was a family of freedom fighters. His grandfather had become Arya Samaji, though we were Sikh, from the Sikh family. But because he became Arya Samaji, he was a reformist. So in the family there was the atmosphere that there was a havan every day in the morning, and he had yagapavits done for Bhagat Singh, and Sanskrit shlokas and everything. So that was the situation at home. And then his grandfather, Bhagat Singh's grandfather, gave education to his sons to be patriots. So his son, he had three sons, Sardar Kishan Singh, Sardar Ajit Singh, and Sardar Swaran Singh. All three of them were fighting for the freedom. At that time, they joined Congress first, and they were under the Congress regime. They were working, and Sardar Kishan Singh, Sardar Bhagat Singh's father, went to jail several times. And Sardar Ajit Singh, when Bhagat Singh was born, he was in Burma, exiled by the British government in Mandalay jail in Burma. And Sardar Swaran Singh was also in jail. The day Bhagat Singh was born, on 28th of September 1907, the same day, Sardar Kishan Singh, his father, and younger uncle Sardar Swaran Singh, they came back home from jail. They were released. And soon after that, we heard a news from Burma that Ajit Singh will be released soon. So in the family, there were a very joyous atmosphere, and his Bhagat Singh's Dadi, Srimati Jaipur, started saying that our son is very lucky, Bhagwan. So Bhagwan कहते उनका नाम फिर जब पूरी तरह ठीक से नाम रखा गया तो उनका नाम भगत सिंह रख दिया गया. तो ये तो है उनके जन्म की बात.
So Bhagat Singh actually came from Bhagwan.
Yes, yeah, भाग्यवान. Yes, that's right. Yes. और जब भगत सिंह और इनके बड़े भाई थे जगत सिंह, दोनों का यज्ञोपवीत संस्कार किया गया, तो उनके दादाजी सरदार अर्जुन सिंह ने अपने दोनों पोतों को बाहों में भर के, and he said, I am giving my sons for the sake of the country. And that's how the yogopavit was done. And Dadi said, when the time came to get the mundan done, Dadi Jayaprabhu said, don't do the mundan, leave the hair. So Sardar Arjun Singh agreed to that, and they didn't cut their hair. So that's how Bhagat Singh had his hair. Right.
So that's how he always wore a turban.
Yes, up to 28, 1928. Yes, he was wearing turban. Yes. In 1928, he had his hair cut down in Firozpur, in Punjab.
Right.
Yes.
That was to escape the British.
That's right. Yes.
Right. Okay, so a little bit about Bhagat Singh's life, Virendra ji, because you're the authentic source on Bhagat Singh. You're Bhagat Singh's niece. You were also born in the same house where Bhagat Singh was born.
Same village.
So if you can tell us something about how was Bhagat Singh as a person, because this is something I always wanted to know. What was he like? Was he like a normal person, always very jovial, or was he always very serious, or what did he like to eat, and did he listen to music? We all know that he used to read a lot of books, but what did he like to do?
He was very jovial, no doubt, but at the same time he was very serious about studies. Right from the young age, he had learned Hindi and Sanskrit from his grandfather. And in the schools in those days, there was Urdu language which was taught. So he had 3 languages he knew, and after that he learned Punjabi himself. That was self-taught, and he was so good in even Punjabi or Gurmukhi, you can say, that he had written many articles in Gurmukhi.
Right.
So he knew 4 languages: Hindi, Urdu, English, and Punjabi. And he could read and write very well in all 4 languages. Afterwards, when he had he had to give his statements in the courts, all were written in English by himself. It was so good.
But
even English people, they used to get surprised that he has such a good command on the language.
Right.
Yes.
But what about his personal interests? For example, what about his hobbies? I heard that he had a very nice voice. He used to sing.
Yes. He used to sing. He used to go for boating, and he took
boating
part.
Where was boating done?
Wherever
In Lahore?
In Lahore and in Kanpur. Yes, in Kanpur there is Ganges, and he liked boating. He had worked for several newspapers, so he was a very good news reporter, and he had taken part in several dramas in the drama club in National College, like Mahabharata and Bharat Durdasha, Chandragupta Maurya, and he was very well applauded for that.
And did he like to eat something in particular? Did he enjoy eating?
Yes, doodh, dahi, makhan, whatever Punjabi people do like. And rasgullas, of course.
He loved rasgullas?
Yes.
Okay. So, did it ever happen that he was in jail and somebody brought rasgullas for him?
Yes, at one time. Rasgullas came from Calcutta.
Oh.
And when he was, the case was going on, and he said to the magistrate, well, magistrate, come out and see, the Rasgullas are outside.
So what about Bhagat Singh's marriage? I've heard that, his engagement was almost about fixed, but he didn't want to get married.
No, at the age of 16 or 17, his grandmother wanted him to get married.
Right.
And there was a proposal of marriage came, and the girl's family came to see the boy, Bhagat Singh. They liked Bhagat Singh, and they fixed the date for the engagement. But Bhagat Singh, by that time, he had decided that he will only work for the country. He will not get married, though probably family didn't know that how deep-rooted patriotism is in him. And they wanted him to get married. He wrote a letter to his father, which I will read it to you.
Yes, please.
It was in Urdu.
So this was a letter written by Bhagat Singh that you were reading.
Yes. In 1923, Bhagat Singh's father, Sardar Kishan Singh, was seriously trying to get his son married. When Bhagat Singh came to know of it, he quietly left the home and left this letter for his father. Respected father, Namaste. My life has already been committed to a noble cause, the cause of the freedom of India. For that reason, comforts and worldly desires have no attraction in my life. You must be remembering that at the time of my sacred thread ceremony, when I was quite young, Bapuji, in bracket grandfather, had declared that I was being pledged for the service of the country. I am therefore honoring the pledge of that time. I hope you will excuse me. Yours obediently, Bhagat Singh.
Wow.
So that is and he went to Kanpur straight away. He had by this time met Shachindranath Sanyal, who was a revolutionary and who had started the Hindustan Republican Army as a party. And he had spent several times in jail in Andaman. So he met him, Bhagat Singh met him, and Shachindranath Sanyal asked him that we need full-time workers for the party. Would you be able to leave home if need be? And Bhagat Singh said yes. So this was the first opportunity came to leave home, and Bhagat Singh left home and went to Kanpur. There he, as Shachindranath had given a letter to him, there he met Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi ji, and he worked in his newspaper Pratap, under the name of Balwan.
And he wrote like several articles of Pratap.
Yes, and at the same time he wrote articles. He first of all he started selling the newspaper, and then he started writing and working in the Pratap press. So that's how he met several other revolutionaries there, like Chandrasekhar Azad, Ajay Ghosh, Shiv Verma, Vijay Kumar Sinha, Batukeshwar Dutt. He met all of them there. Though he had other friends in Lahore, Sukhdev, Yashpal, Bhagwati Charan Vora, they were all in Lahore, and there was a group of revolutionaries in Lahore as well. So that's how.
So since you read that amazing letter by Bhagat Singh,
yes,
and since you talked about jail, if I could ask you, we know that he was in jail, he was kept in jail, but the question that comes to my mind is, Was he kept in the jail in a good condition? Did the British treat him well? Did they treat him badly? What was his jail cell like? What was the situation there?
Very good question. He quoted arrest when he threw bomb in the assembly. And perhaps you all know that it was only a smoke bomb just to make a loud noise. And that loud noise was given to the British government from the Indian masses. He and his colleague Bhagat Singh threw two bombs at the empty places where there were no parliament members, legislative members sitting there. So, and Bhatukeshwar Das, he threw the pamphlets, and on the pamphlets it was written to make the deaf hear, and they made a loud noise for that. And when he was in jail in Delhi, first of all, they quoted arrest in the Legislative Assembly Delhi, and then they were in jail before the session court का जो session court में जो उम्र कैद की सजा हुई, and they were treated very well in the jail there. But because they knew that the government doesn't treat well to all the prisoners, all political prisoners, Bhagat Singh and Bhatukeshwar Das decided before leaving Delhi that we will start hunger strike. So Bhagat Singh was sent to Mianwali jail, and Bhatukeshwar Das was sent to Lahore Central Jail. And they both started their hunger strike from 15th of June 1929. And for some time, the demands were that we should be treated like English political prisoners.
We should be treated like English political prisoners.
Yes, as the English political prisoners are treated, we should be treated like that. And we should get all toiletry facilities, soap for taking bath and this, that and the other. And we should get the food of the same quality as English prisoners do get. And a couple of more things maybe, and we should get newspaper every day. So all these demands were there.
And were these demands then fulfilled, and then they got it?
After a long time. After 114 days, they kept the strike, hunger strike. And when they started, they didn't know that there is forcible feeding. So they just wanted to give their life, even if they have to do that. They were prepared for that. And their colleague, one of their colleagues, Jatindranath Sanyal, died after the hunger strike of 63 days. And he was called Max Winnie. Max Winnie was an Irish person. He died in jail in hunger strike in Ireland after 75 days of that. And Jatindranath Das died after 63 days.
So basically,
so in between 2-3 times, government said that they will fulfill their demand. So they had to stop the strike. But when they didn't do that, the hunger strike started again. So this way, altogether, it was 114 days strike, and that was the longest hunger strike in the world. In the world.
On that note, Virendra, because he was a revolutionary and we all know that, I'm going to take a short break, and that break is we are going to break to a small Q&A round because we talked about the personal life of Bhagat Singh. So let's break to the audience and let's ask them if they have any questions about the life of Bhagat Singh. I'm sure everyone will have a lot of questions. So,
Namaste. I have one question. What was the particular scene or scenario that actually pushed Bhagat Singh to become a full-time revolutionary? I remember yesterday at the PM you mentioned a particular incident that has happened where Bhagat Singh's blood really boiled. Could you just give us a bit more information on that particular scenario?
what was that particular incident when his blood really boiled? When he was really angry, and that made him what he was? Yeah, that's right.
When Lala Lajpat Rai died, they wanted to avenge that. The revolutionaries decided to avenge Lalaji's death because they thought that one English officer has killed our national leader. So that was the time I would say that he became angry.
That was the death of Lala Lajpat Rai actually made him.
Yeah, made them take away.
Okay. Any more questions?
Anybody else?
I would prefer if you would write it down or write up Hindi में बोल सकते बोलिए.
मेरा नाम प्रतिभा दत्ता है और मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ कि आपको एज अ पर्सन कितना टाइम आपने बताया भगत सिंह जी के साथ और आपकी कोई स्पेसिफिक यादें उस पीरियड?
मैंने उनके साथ कोई टाइम नहीं बिताया क्योंकि मेरा जन्म तो काफी बाद में हुआ, लेकिन हमारे घर में अक्सर भगत सिंह जी के बारे में बातचीत होती रहती थी और खासतौर पर मेरी दादी जी ज़रूर उनके बचपन की बातें करती थी और बताती थी, तो उनसे ही जो कुछ भी मैंने सुना है वो है, या मेरे पिताजी भी बताते थे थोड़ा बहुत, मेरी बुआ जी बताती थी। तो भगत सिंह जी की दो चाचियाँ थीं, सरदार अजीत सिंह, फिर बाद में विदेशों में जब वो बर्मा से वापस पहुंच गए थे तो बाद में वो विदेशों में आ गए थे कि विदेश से हिंदुस्तान की आज़ादी के लिए काम करेंगे। तो then he came out and his wife was left there. And younger uncle Sardar Swaran Singh, he died in jail at the age of 23 and he had a widow there. So both the aunts were at home and Bhagat Singh had a very Bhagat Singh had seen them in suffering. So Bhagat Singh had a great impression of those two aunts and they had actually helped him to bring him up because Bhagat Singh's father and mother, they started living in Lahore while Bhagat Singh was still having his primary education under the guidance of his grandparents and both the aunts. So this type of things I have heard from my grandmother, but I haven't seen them. I'm very lucky that when I was born, my grandparents were still alive, and I have played in their lap, and they have brought me up. So that is how the family connection is.
Can we take one more question?
Bhagat Singh is said that he's very mature for his age. He was died very young. But could you touch on the Jallianwala Bagh incident and how old he was and what impression it had left on him at that point?
What impression did Jallianwala Bagh leave on him? And also because he was very mature for his age. So what did he feel?
Bhagat Singh was only 12 years old when the Jallianwala Bagh incident happens. And the next day, the news spread everywhere whatever had happened in Jallianwala Bagh. And next day, instead of going to school, he went straight to Amritsar from Lahore. He took a bus and went there. And in the evening, it was getting quite late and he didn't come home. My Bhagat Singh's mother and the sister, they were quite worried that he hasn't come. And when Bhagat Singh came, he was very sad. And my Bhagat Singh's younger sister, she said to him, I have kept some fruits for you, and why are you so late today? And he said, you don't know what has happened. He had brought some blood-soaked soil from Jallianwala Bagh.
He brought the soil
From there,
from
Jallianwala Bagh, put it in a small bottle, and then he used to put flowers around it for so many months, even after that. So that's sort of impression he had. And because he was very patriotic right from his childhood, he used to feel people's pain that we were going through in the British regime, and he used to even cry on this sort of incident, like Hindu-Muslim riots and all used to make him cry. That on one side we are suffering from the British regime, and on the other we are fighting with each other. That used to make him very sad. Yes.
Okay. Just one last question and then we keep on.
What was Bhagat Singh like? What was his effect on the people around him? So obviously you said with family he was going a bit serious, but with the public, was he preaching or was he just very quiet and reserved?
What effect did it have of Bhagat Singh's personality on the people around him, let's say his friends or people who knew him? Was he always preaching them about something? Or was he always like a leader?
Yes, when he was in primary school, all the other boys of his junior or senior, they used to love him. He had that sort of netas.
He had like a neta.
like a leadership qualities, and children used to love him, and they will bring him on their shoulders home, and everyone would love his personality. And they used to ask, the other boys used to ask him, what are you going to do when you are grown up? The other boy will say, I'll get married, or I'll do this, or I'll do that.
Right.
And he would say, I will only do work for the country. I'm not going to get married.
Or he used to always say that. He was very sure.
Yes, right from the young age, because he had read several books which were at home by the revolutionaries. His uncle Sardar Ajit Singh had started Bharat Mata Society in Lahore, and they had published several pamphlets and small booklets about India's independence and how we are suffering and all that. And he had read all that by the age of 11. And when Gadar Party movement started, he was only 8 to 10 years old.
Only 8 to 10 years old.
And he had known quite a lot about that. And after that, when he went to National College Lahore, then there he studied a lot. Russian Revolution, French Revolution, Italian Revolution, आयरलैंड का जो स्वतंत्रता संग्राम का इतिहास. So he had read all that, and at the same time read quite a few novels which were more mainly either political or historical value. He wouldn't like any other type of novels. So there was this National College Lahore was started by Lala Lajpat Rai, and that was purely for the boys who come from nationalist families and very patriotic background, and they wanted to work for the country. So that was the college where he studied up to 1923, and in 1923, when he was a student of BA first year, he left home, and after that he didn't go to any college.
Okay, so Virendra, since you mentioned a college which was meant for boys which came from nationalistic families, since you said that, since you just now mentioned the Russian Revolution and the revolution in elsewhere other countries, I'm going to start part number 2 of our interview today, which is asking you a little bit for controversial, or let's say more questions which are in the news related to that. So, question number 1, which is, it's always been a burning debate, and it has also always bothered me. I always wanted to ask somebody, and now I will ask you, because you're the source. So, was Bhagat Singh a Marxist revolutionary who always believed in defying the system? Or was he a nationalist revolutionary who was just in love with his country? What was he?
He had read anarchism, Marxism, Leninism. He was a nationalist right from the beginning, but at the end, he adopted socialism for India.
Right.
Socialism where there is everybody will be equal, and they have equal rights and equality. Will be no casteism, no untouchability, and there will be opportunities to all for education, for jobs, and for everything, and everyone will be treated as equal.
Okay.
Because we have had untouchability, which was very bad and backward. Even his grandfather, he didn't believe in untouchability, and he had done 2 wells in the village for the people, so that they can get water from those wells. So he was also of the same sort of views.
So you are saying, Virendra, that he was a nationalist. So does that mean he was not a communist?
No, he was not.
He was not a communist.
No, he was not a communist. Nationalist first, and as a Shasan Vyavastha, he had adopted, and he wanted socialism, so that everyone has the equal rights for everything.
But Virendra, I read somewhere that Bhagat Singh, just before he died, he was actually reading the biography of Lenin.
Yes.
Plus, he has also read Savarkar. He has also read Marx and Lenin, and yet he has read the Bhagavad Gita. So then, what is that?
But Marxism and Leninism was the topic of the day, isn't it? At that time, the whole world was impressed with all these revolutions, and the Leninism and Marxism was very new at that time. The Russian Revolution was in 1917, so which is the very new thing. And everyone was impressed with that because the whole system was changed in Russia. And what else did you say?
I said he was reading the biography of Lenin just before he died.
Lenin, because he had read in that morning paper in Tribune,
that morning when he was in jail.
When he read about that biography, so he asked his friend Pranath Mehta, who was an advocate as well. He asked him, when you come to meet me today, bring Lenin's biography. So Pranath Mehta, when he came to the jail, he brought the book and his Bhagat Singh started reading. And he had only read few pages, and the warden of the jail came and he said, Sardarji, it's time to take your last bath and time to get ready. He said, wait a minute, let me finish the page I'm reading. A revolutionary is meeting another revolutionary, and he finished that page and he just threw the book towards the ceiling, and he got up and to be ready for hanging, to go to the gallows.
Okay, so he was a true nationalist, you would say that, Virendra. And he was somebody who loved his nation and he wanted to.
Yes. He wanted freedom for the country, for whatever he has to pay for that. And the life, giving his own life, is the biggest thing one can do, isn't it?
Yes. So since he said he wanted freedom, Azadi. So we all know Azadi is very famous in India nowadays. And everyone has heard Azadi, right? So I just want to ask, the Azadi in the prime of his youth, the Azadi that Bhagat Singh believed in back then, was it similar or is it similar to the Azadi that the people of India or the youth are nowadays demanding? Is it similar?
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, because today's youth is a spoiled youth. They get everything without doing anything, and they don't have to do, and they do not know the meaning of Azadi. Only those people can know, those who have lived in those oppressed situations in that time when the country was not free. The British government could have put anyone in jail, could have hanged anyone without any muqaddama or anything. So they don't even know what the slavery is, or the British Raj, what we have had before. They haven't paid any price for that. So they are getting whatever they want for free in a way. And they just want to make enough people in the country on the name of Azadi. But I would say it's very wrong.
So the Azadi which is being demanded today is wrong according to you?
It's very wrong thing to do. They should do things to improve the situations in the country rather than make an upheaval and destroy the system of the country.
Okay. So, all right. So there's another question, Virendraji, which often comes to my mind, and we all know Gandhiji. In that situation, when it was announced that Bhagat Singh would be hanged, obviously everyone wished that he lived longer, and he did not die at such an early age.
Yes.
So do you think that Gandhiji, who was himself a barrister or lawyer, do you think he could have actually done something to save Bhagat Singh, and he could have overturned the sentence of Bhagat Singh? He could have spoken to for the Britishers?
In actual facts, Gandhi hated revolutionaries. He spoke against them quite a lot. Though Bhagat Singh and other revolutionaries, they respected Gandhi. They knew what Gandhi is and what he has done for the country as far as bringing the masses together for the andolans, for rising up. Gandhi had done a lot, and for that, revolutionaries respected him. But there was a bit of difference. Gandhi only wanted non-violence, and revolutionaries were not violent. They were also believed in non-violence, but at the same time, if there is a need of violence, they would not hesitate to do that to get the India's freedom. They wanted freedom whichever way they can. And he himself has written, "Bam aur pistol kranti nahi late, kranti ki talwar विचारों से बनती है, विचारों की धार पर तेज होती है." So it's not necessary that one has to use pistols and bombs to bring the revolution. Revolution can come even without that. But sometimes it is necessary to use these weapons to bring the revolution so that we could get independence.
So then, are you saying that, according to you say that it was okay for Gandhiji to not save Bhagat Singh because he resorted to violence?
As far as violence is concerned, yes, that was all right for Gandhiji to hang Bhagat Singh and his colleagues Rajguru and Sukhdev. But what I have read in the books, wrong or right, I don't know, it's difficult to say, that Gandhiji on his personal level, he tried. He said to Lord Irwin that it will be better if you commute the sentences of these three revolutionaries. He said, Lord Irwin said, "I cannot commute because these are the government orders and I cannot go against it. But I can postpone it for a few days. And so that it is the hanging will be done after the Karachi Congress." And at that, Gandhiji said, "No, if you have to hang, then hang them before the Karachi Congress."
Really? So he actually said that if you want to hang them,
yes,
hang them before the Karachi
Congress, so that if there is any reaction of the people, that will just go without anything.
So the people wouldn't revolt?
Yes, or if they had to revolt, let them revolt. So don't postpone it, then it's all right to hang them before the president. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
and then there was a great revolt after when he was hanged.
Exactly.
That there were people with गांधी जी के लिए black wool लेकर के लोगों ने they did processions and things. So that was happened. There were a lot of strikes and in the colleges, in the schools, and a lot of processions and public meetings because of the hanging. It was all done afterwards, yes.
So, Virendra, talking of Bhagat Singh's death, do you think that the British, the way they killed Bhagat Singh and who was hanged before he was supposed to be hanged, can you brief us a little bit on that? Because suddenly, it was all done suddenly.
Yes.
What happened to his body?
Yeah. Actually, the hanging had to be done on 24th of March in the morning. Hanging is always done in the morning, between 6 and 7. And that was the date, 24th of March was the fixed. And 3-4 days before, it was all in the papers, and everyone knew that this is the date which is fixed for the hanging. And Punjab government, the British Punjab government officers of Punjab, they wanted to hang him and finish him off as soon as possible, so that Lord Irwin doesn't say that postpone it or commute.
Oh, before it is announced that postpone it,
because there was
they wanted to kill him.
Gandhi and Lord Irwin, the samjhota was going on. So and at the same time, the British officers, which they were in the Punjab government, they said, all of us will resign. If you want, if the hanging is not done, we will all resign. And that British government didn't want. That would have been very bad for them if the whole of the British rulers from there resigned.
Right.
So that is why, and it is the decision of the Punjab government to hang him one day earlier. Instead of 24th, they were hanged on 23rd in the evening, 7 o'clock.
And what happened to his body?
The bodies were not given to the families. Yes, one thing more I would like to have mentioned here. That day on 23rd, my grandparents, Bhagat Singh's parents and his grandparents and both the aunts, Rajguru's mother and sister from Patna, from Maharashtra, but they were there to meet their son, and Sukhdev's mother from Raipur, they were all there, and they went to the jail as for the last meeting. But the jail authorities said only the first blood relation can meet, like Bhagat Singh's grandparents cannot meet, only the parents can meet, and aunts cannot meet. So Bhagat Singh's grandparents said, all right, you go and meet him. But then my grandfather refused. He said, no, we will not meet. If you cannot meet and the two aunts cannot, we won't. And when they said that, Rajguru's mother and sister, they also refused to meet Rajguru. So did Sukhdev's mother. So they all came back. There were a lot of people getting together there. There was a big mob, and my Bhagat Singh's father, Sardar Kishan Singh, thought that the mob might get out of hand and they might start breaking the jail or something. So they told everybody to go home, but they couldn't go home. And then at one place in Lahore, they all get together, and Sardar Kishan Singh started speaking and saying to the public to be calm and not to get agitated against the British rule. So that was happened, and then meanwhile in the evening, while my Sardar Bhagat Singh's father was speaking, then the news came from the jail that they were hanged, and the bodies were not given to the families. They were taken, they were cut into pieces.
The bodies were cut into pieces?
Yes, they were cut into pieces and put them in the sacks and were taken to Firozpur. And they did not even have the courage to take the bodies, the truck from the main door. break the back wall of the jail, and from there the bodies were taken. And in Firozpur, at the bank of Satluj, they put kerosene oil and burned them. And some people from Lahore, when they came to know that they were hanged and the bodies were taken towards Firozpur, they walked from there, and some people joined them from Firozpur. So before the morning, they all reached there, and they found a hot place on the earth. So that's how they came to know the bodies. And what they did was,
and why the bodies had already burned?
The half-burned bodies, they were thrown in the Satluj, and they went away because they had seen people coming towards them. So half-burned bodies were thrown in the water of Satluj, and then whatever few pieces of the bodies were left there, and some pebbles, stones with the blood soaked. They were all brought back from there. My Buaji was those people, and Lala Lajpat Rai's daughter was there. And next day there was a big procession in Lahore, and then they were cremated properly. Those few pieces of bodies they were, we don't know. So that's how the last.
That's very disturbing to hear. Okay, so Virendra, since you're talking about Bhagat Singh revealing so much information that we didn't know, one question comes to our mind when we think about Bhagat Singh as a person, because he wrote in a note specifically saying that, why I'm an atheist. On that, if I can ask you, at the same time, he also wore a turban. And at the same time, he was brought up in a Arya Samaji way. And if I'm not wrong, when he was young, he also had a chanev, or Yagyapavit, which is a Hindu ceremony. So, and he did not believe in any god or any creation which would all control us or who has made us. So what did he believe in?
Because he was brought up by his grandfather, so he moved because he was grandfather was Arya Samaji. He kept his hair, as I told you before, that his grandmother said, leave the hair, so he kept his hair. And when he was in National College, Lahore, he read all about the revolutions, and all those revolutionaries, they did not believe in God. He read Bakunin, who he did not believe in God, and all the revolutionaries have made their countries free, and they did not believe. So after all his reading and all, that was the impact on him, that he started not believing in God.
So he believed that for a revolution, or all those revolutionaries that he followed,
yes,
they didn't believe in a particular creation.
That's right.
And also because he was brought up in Arya Samaji way, which believes in no idol worship. So that's why he believed that. That's why he became an atheist.
That's why.
Because you said that he was brought up in an Arya Samaji way and because he followed the revolutionaries. That's why he became an atheist.
Yes. That is, by 1926, he became an atheist. He was arrested first time in 1927 when he was 20 years old. And at that time, even the police officer asked him to do prayer, and he did not. He wanted to see whether in my hard times I can stand on my own feet or not. And he thought that he doesn't want any intoxication or any anything to have कोई किसी चीज का सहारा नहीं लेना चाहते. He didn't want anything. He wanted to stand on his own feet. Right. And even if he had to, even while going to the gallows, he wanted to keep his head erect and he wanted to stand on his two legs. He himself has written, though it is very difficult, if not child's play, not to believe in God. And if you believe in God, you have faith in something, and your worries and your and the struggles, they become quite easy to surpass. But standing on your own feet and not believing in God, it's not a child's play.
So he said that it is not child's play to not believe in anything. Yeah. So does it mean that? So does it mean that Virendra ji, that you said in 1926 he became an atheist?
Yes.
So does it mean that before that he actually believed in God, or did he ever go to the Gurudwara or the temple?
Sorry?
You said in 1926 he became an atheist completely. Yes. So does it mean that it was before 1926 that he actually believed in something? He went to the Gurudwara?
He used to do Gayatri mantra and all that, and he used to read Gita. Yes.
Is there something that you want to share with us, Virendra?
Yes. I will just read one or two paragraphs. Why I am an atheist.
Okay.
Yes.
Please.
When man tries to stand on his own, on his two legs and become a realist, he shall have to throw faith aside and to face manfully all the distress, troubles in which the circumstances may throw him. That is exactly my state of affairs. It is not my vanity. My friend, it is my mode of thinking that has made me an atheist. I don't know whether in my case, belief in God and offering a daily prayer, which I consider to be most selfish and degraded act on the part of man, whether these prayers can prove to be helpful or they shall make my case worse still. I have read of atheists facing all troubles quite boldly. So am I trying to stand like a man with an erect head to the last, even on the gallows. Let us see how I'll carry on. One friend asked me to pray. When informed of my atheism, he said, during your last days, you will begin to believe. I said, no, dear sir, I shall not be. That to be an act of degradation and demoralization on my part. For selfish motives, I am not going to pray. Readers and friends, is this vanity? If it is, I stand for it.
So he said it would be an act of
he was a realist.
He was a realist.
Yes.
So he said it would be an act of demoralization if he moves away from his path of being an atheist and in his last days.
And starts praying. Yes.
Okay. So since we're talking about what he believed in, Virendra ji, could you tell us and could you tell the audience what was his last wish? What did he really want? What did Bhagat Singh want?
He wanted to take birth again and serve the country.
Again.
Yes. That's what he said.
That's what he said. And did he mention that in a letter?
Yes.
So he said that he would want to be born again and he would again be serving the country and he would again want to do something revolutionary.
Wanted to serve his country. Yes. On March 22nd, the second Lahore conspiracy case convicts who were locked up in ward number 14 near condemned cells Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Sukhdev, they were in condemned cell. And other prisoners were in Ward 14, sent a slip to Bhagat Singh asking if he would like to live. This letter was in reply to the slip. Comrades, the desire to live is natural. It is in me also. I do not want to conceal it, but it is conditional. I don't want to live as a prisoner or under restrictions. My name has become a symbol of Indian revolution. The ideal and the sacrifices of the revolutionary party have elevated me to a height beyond which I will never be able to raise if I live. Today people do not know my weaknesses. If I escape gallows, those weaknesses will come before them and the symbol of revolution will get tarnished, or perhaps it may vanish altogether. On the other hand, if I mount the gallows boldly and with a smile, that will inspire Indian mothers and they will aspire that their children should also become Bhagat Singh. Thus, the number of persons ready to sacrifice their lives for the freedom of country will increase enormously. It will then become impossible for imperialism to face the tide of the revolution. And all their might and their satanic efforts will not be able to stop its onward march. Yes, one thing pricks in me even today. My heart nurtured some ambitions for doing something for humanity and for my country. I have not been able to fulfill even 1,000th part of those ambitions. If I live, I might perhaps get a chance to fulfill them. If ever it came to my mind that I should not die, it came from this and only. I am proud of myself these days and I am anxiously waiting for the final test. I wish the day may come nearer soon. Your comrade Bhagat Singh. And that he had written on 22nd of March 1931.
He was proud of himself and we all are very, very proud of him even till now and for the years to come. Okay, so Virendra ji, one last question to you. Second last question I would say. What is your message? What is your message to the Indian youth? What would you tell the Indian youth as to what can they do for their country? What can they do for India, for Bharat?
Well, number one, I would say patriotism. One has to be loyal to one's country, wherever you are. And the other thing is that one should do things to promote the country, not to be a person who would do things which are not good for the country. So that's what I would say. One should.
What do you mean by do things which are not good for the country? If you can.
Like these days, the young people of India, they want azadi. They don't know what azadi they want. So that sort of feeling and that sort of action is not good for the country.
So how do you think they can become Bhagat Singh or even go on the path of becoming? Is it only by opposing the state?
Say the question again.
How do you think they can be on the path of becoming Bhagat Singh? Should they only stand up and...
They should. Number one is they should be a thinker and they should read more and more. They should, Bhagat Singh started reading more and more when he was in National College, Lahore, to counter the arguments of the opposite side. So to counter the arguments, one has to study more, and at the same time,
You think they should rise up against the governments and because
not in the present stage.
Not in the present state.
No, I don't think so. They should work for the uprise of country, and they should study more. They should take lessons from the ideals of the revolutionaries, because they don't know what the slavery is. They should take lessons from the revolutionaries, how they have worked hard for this independence which we are enjoying these days, and they should serve the country in that way.
And not become atheists. Should be.
Well, that is a personal matter. That's a personal matter for everyone, whether it's a Hindu or Muslim or any other faith, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, it doesn't matter.
So your advice is,
if you are a good human being and you are serving the humanity, that is the biggest prayer or puja for anyone. Humanity is the biggest thing, and being a human and serving the human that should be the aim.
So you're saying Samajwad is the way forward. Samajwad is the way forward. You're saying that.
Yes. Though we have a Samajwadi party, but
that's not the way forward anymore.
But that Samajwadi party is different than Bhagat Singh's Samajwad. Yes, because we still have Unch-Neech and Chua-Chut in our country. That has not gone. So we have to eradicate that. And I have read somewhere about Bhagat Singh, I was reading, that instead of giving pistol in his hand, because this is what happens, they show him with a pistol, and because it's just a coincidence that he had took in two actions, and one he had to use a pistol and bomb. It's a coincidence. He was a pure revolutionary. He did not believe in killing. He did not want that to be done, but it had to be done. So instead of having a pistol in his hand, there should be a book in his hand. That will be the true message from Bhagat Singh, because Bhagat Singh always had books in his pockets. His pockets used to tear up, and his mother used to say, "Oh, what do you keep? Why do you do this?" But he always had, even while walking on the road, he would have a book in his pocket and he will read. Even up to his colleagues, and one of his colleagues, Shri Shiv Varma, whose book I have read it from, he has said that Bhagat Singh used to keep a small library in his pockets, always 4 or 5 books in his pockets. And so today's students should study more. They should devote their time in studies and help to uprise our country, not to demoralize.
Not to demoralize the country. Okay, so your message is read a lot of books, have a lot of knowledge.
Oh yes.
Okay, so, but Virendra, since you mentioned Samajwad and not Samajwadi Party, since you mentioned parties, I'm going to ask you, and this is on a lighter note, do you think if Bhagat Singh, if he was alive today, do you think he would have joined any political party? Or let me ask you the question this way. You think if Bhagat Singh was alive today, if he was alive with us, what would he have said had he looked at Modi ji? If he had looked at Modi ji, because he also apparently has a lot of youth support now.
Yes.
So what would he have said?
You have joined him.
Well, I personally think that he would have loved this. He would have loved this. The change which Modi is bringing, Bhagat Singh would have liked it. Because this is what we need. Under the Congress regime for last 60 odd years, there was a lot of corruption and all. And rich people became more richer and richer, and poor became more poorer. So, sabka saath, sabka vikas, he would have loved that. Yes.
So would he then be a part of any political party, you would say?
I don't know. I can't say that. I don't know what would have happened if he would have been alive.
But he would have definitely liked the current state of affairs, you say.
He would have.
Alright. So on that note,
He had translated Savarkar's book in Hindi.
Yes.
And he had a lot of respect for Savarkar ji, and he had translated one of Ireland's revolutionaries, My Fight for Irish Freedom. He had translated that in Hindi. So he was very well read and well.
So, since you said he mentioned, since he translated the works of Savarkar, he really admired Savarkar, did he also, I just remembered this, I just had to ask this, did he also like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and what he was?
Yes. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose went a couple of times when his case was going on in the court. And Netaji went to collect Yatindranath Das's body when he died after 63 years of hunger strike. Yes, he met him, and he had a lot of respect for Netaji.
So Bhagat Singh had actually met Netaji and he really admired him. Okay, alright. On that note,
he had met Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and Pandit Motilal Nehru, and several other members went to see him when the court case was going on. Yes.
Okay. Alright. So, thank you so much. You can see by the clapping of people, you see how everyone has really enjoyed you speaking here today. We will again break into a Q&A round, but before that, yes. So let's get some more questions before we end today's program. Let's get some questions from the audience. Now you can ask anything, controversial and personal, anything.
Whenever martyrs are recognized, although 3 people gave their life on the day, why is it that only Bhagat Singh is remembered? Was there something special about him, or was he different from the other 2?
Why is it only that Bhagat Singh is remembered? Because there were so many martyrs, so many people gave him life. What was so special about him?
Not everybody.
3 died on the day. Why?
Yes, why not Sukhdev and Raju?
Yes. Up to Bhagat Singh's time, revolutionaries were working underground. They were not they were not coming, they were not working overground, and public did not know much about their what they are doing and why. There were off and on killings of British officers, and several people have been hanged by that time. But by changing the name, first of all, of the party from Hindustan Prajatantra Sangh, he changed to Hindustan Samajwadi Prajatantrik Sangh. And when he threw the bombs in the assembly, he gave the slogan, "Long live revolution, down, down with imperialism." So that Nara, that message, went to the masses. It brought the revolutionaries above the ground, and people knew what they are doing, what their aims and objectives. Because after the assembly bomb, in the session judge court, Bhagat Singh made a big statement, and he in that statement he has cleared what their aims and objectives are and why they have done, and so on and so forth. It's a long statement. And
but do you think
his English was so good, and he was such a good orator too, that he spoke in the courts. After Delhi Session Court, his case was brought in Lahore, which was a Saunders murder case, and he used to speak in English and in quite a loud voice, and he was so popular then that a lot of people used to come to the court just to hear Bhagat Singh, how he was speaking. And then the other thing they did was the hunger strike, which brought the public feeling, sympathy for the revolutionaries. So the slogan of Inqilab Zindabad, and then after that in the jail they have such a long hunger strike. So the Revolutionary Party became the name of his name became the household name all over India. And people came to know how they are sacrificing themselves for the freedom of the country. And Rajguru did not know English much. He was like me. Bhagat Singh was like you. So,
and what about Sukhdev? But do you think
Sukhdev was very sharp-minded. He was a co-student of Bhagat Singh, and he was the main organizer of the party.
Oh, really?
Yes. So he was called to be a conspirator by the British, and that is why he was hanged. He didn't kill anyone or anything because of the conspiracy he has done against the British rule. That is why he was hanged. And Rajguru was in the Saunders murder with Bhagat Singh. Rajguru had shot him first, and then Bhagat Singh shot him 2-3 times afterwards, so that to make sure that he is killed, he is not saved. So Bhagat Singh spoke very well, and he wrote letters to the Governor General of India, to Punjab, and to all the officials.
So Bhagat Singh was a great leader, and Rajguru was the one who took the action first, and Sukhdev was the one who actually made the entire plan.
There were several people in the party, but Bhagat Singh's name became the name of every household because of the assembly bomb case. And then long hunger strikes.
And the inqilabs in
And
Nepal, of
because,
course.
yes, of course. And because he was a spokesperson and he was very good at English and all other languages. And so he was a good orator and all that. And that is why he is called Shahid-e-Azam, Bhagat Singh, and not anyone else. Though so many other people had given their sacrifices and they are not less than him in any case. But still, Bhagat Singh became a symbol of revolution, and his name is called, he is called Shahid-e-Azam, Prince of the Martyrs.
Right.
So
that made him very special. All right. Any more questions?
India's education आजकल के ज़माने में पता नहीं कि बच्चों को पढ़ाया जाता है या नहीं, कि इंडिया की जो शहीद थे उन्होंने क्या बलिदान दिए हैं। आजकल के ज़माने में पता नहीं ये हो रहा है या नहीं। आपके ख्याल में ये पढ़ाया जा रहा है जोरों शोर या इतिहास को भुला दिया गया?
इनाम पढ़ाया जा रहा है शहीदों के बारे में हमारे बच्चों को, क्या और पढ़ाना चाहिए?
पहले तो नहीं पढ़ाया जाता था। इस वक्त मैंने एजुकेशन ली है 50s में कह लीजिए या 60s में, तब तक तो नहीं पढ़ाया जाता था। लेकिन अब तो इधर थोड़ा बहुत परिवर्तन होना शुरू हुआ है जरूर, मोदी जी की सरकार आने से या थोड़ा उससे पहले से। अब थोड़ा ज़्यादा ध्यान दिया जाने लगा है कि क्रांतिकारियों को भी कुछ श्रेय दिया जाए, नहीं तो उससे पहले उनको विद्रोही या भटके हुए नौजवान इस तरह के कुछ कहा जाता था। और हमारी जो मैट्रिक में मैंने जो पढ़ा, एक पैराग्राफ के अंदर रेवोल्यूशनरीज के बारे में लिखा हुआ था, और वो बम और पिस्तौल यूज करते थे, वायलेंट थे, यही कहा जाता था।
Thank you so much for giving us your precious time and talking to us about Bhagat Singh and sharing immense information which all of us I didn't know for sure. And thank you so much. That will be a small vote of thanks for you.
We have been hearing about Sheikh Bhagat Singh, his life, his revolutionary work, revolutionary philosophy, and so many things. Today, I'm sure all of you will agree with me that his own knees told us every single word which is absolute truth. There is no fiction in what she said, and I think this is the best way to celebrate Martyrs' Day with absolute truth. Few things which she said perhaps may not be in the public domain or may be put in otherwise, but she really told us what exactly happened, how it happened. Naturally, Virendra Arora, her husband, who is here, yes, she came here. Virendra Arora, all of you know, a journalist who used to read Hindi news on BBC here, and he took liberty of translating English into Hindi the way he wanted to, and he put exactly what he wanted to in his Hindi bulletins. Now, I think it's time for us to felicitate our guests. So I'll request Jayawar Shah to felicitate Virendra Sindhuji.
Thank you very much.
अब संतोष जी गुप्ता हमारे फिजी के कार्यकर्ता आपको आपके ताया जी की तस्वीर दे रहे हैं।
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's Thank you.
संतोष जी, आप नरेश जी का भी सत्कार कीजिए। आपने जो बहुत अच्छा प्रश्नोत्तर का सेशन दिया, दीपिका जी, आपका भी सत्कार कीजिए। अभी आभार प्रकट का जो कार्यक्रम है, ये हमारे फिजी के कार्यकर्ता जयेंद्र शाह करेंगे।
I would like to thank Mrs. Arora, Virendra ji ko, or Naresh ji ko, for coming here today and celebrating the great Bhagat Singh. Because Naresh ji was one of the founding members of Friends of India. Also, I would like to thank Ritesh Acharya ji for giving her time today for the interview. And I would like to thank the Bullich Sansak Sangh ke sab कार्यकर्ता और जितेंद्र जी और कांदी भाई for giving us the support and help here. And I would like to thank Santosh ji, Jatin ji, Jayesh ji, and Anil ji for giving all the support in making this day very successful. And I would ask everybody to give a good round of claps to